Hello and welcome to March of 2023. This is your astrology overview of March, all the transits, the lunations, and moving into Aries season, which is, of course, also the equinox. And then we're going to cover as well a little bit of a horoscope for every rising sign. So this is going to be a great video. I'm going to have a really good time. I hope you are as well. My name is Crystal Lynn. I am a professional astrologer. I'm also the storytelling astrologer on Instagram and TikTok at The Real Crystal Lynn. And you may know me from either Ask Me Astros or from the Forgotten Storytellers or from the Alchemist Inkwell. There's a lot going on. And if you have found your way here, it is so great to be able to see you and to be able to offer you a bit of a look into what is happening in March of 2023, and then to make it a bit personal for you. So I have an entire presentation that I'm going to show you, and you will be able to download these slides just by clicking the link that will be in the description, as well as timestamps in the description that will be able to navigate you to exactly the sign you want to be at, so you can actually make the most of your time in honor of this Virgo full moon we have coming up first and foremost. So be prepared. We are going to get into a lot of stuff right now. I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible. And of course, I will break it all down into useful affirmations, useful tips, and even affirmations specifically for you and your rising sign. Okay, so we're going to dive right in with just a brief overview of the lunations of the month, the full moon and the new moon of Aries season, and of a couple of the primary transits that we're going to keep an eye on as we go through this month. So here we have our wonderful our wonderful presentation that we get to show off here throughout this. And again, this will be available to you, that you'll be able to download just by clicking the link below, and you can have this for reference so that if you rewatch this and you're like, I just needed when this slide was, you'll be able to find when that slide was on the video, or click in the navigation below with all the timestamps to find things quickly and follow along. So in March of 2023, we have, as usual, 2 lunations and 1 event of the sun moving into a new sign, creating a new season, both zodiacally and in the year, in the seasons of our world. So this is really fun to look at. We have first coming up, the 7th of March is going to be that full moon in Virgo at around 7:40 a.m. Eastern time. We're going to dive into that first because it's got a lot to go along with it. Then on the 20th, Aries season will begin, ushering in the spring equinox if you're in the northern hemisphere, and the fall equinox if you are in the southern hemisphere. And then the very next day on the 21st, we will have the new moon in Aries at 1:23 p.m. So we're going to go ahead and look at some other transits that go along with this, of what the other planets are doing. We still have all planets moving direct until April 21st. At that time, Mercury will be the first to go through a retrograde since the end of January. Mercury is actually in Pisces, going to be in Pisces at this time in detriment on the 2nd of March. On the 7th of March, Saturn's going to come into Pisces. Now, 7th will already sound a little bit familiar because that is the same day as that full moon. So we're really going to feel this. We're going to notice this a little bit. And that's cool because it's going to give us a bit of a template for the next 2 or so years of Saturn being in Pisces. Then Venus is going to come into Taurus, where she is domicile, on the 16th. This is really good for Venus because currently she's in Aries and it's not her happy place. So this will be a bit of an improvement in the Venusian things. Mercury will then come into Aries on the 19th, which is going to get Mercury out of that detriment, I don't have all my resources with me kind of feeling, and into something a little bit more lively for them. Pluto will ingress Aquarius for a brief couple of months on the 23rd of March. So we'll get a taste of what this whole Pluto and Aquarius generation is going to look like before we get to go back and rethink how do we want to prepare for that before it actually settles in sometime next year, actually in the fall. So we have plenty of time to really taste this, experience it, and then go back and say, okay, that's what that's going to be like. How do I prepare for it when it comes back to stay? Mars is going to ingress Cancer after being in Gemini since last August. So it's nice to have the change, but we're also aware that Mars isn't really feeling quite at home or cozy in Cancer. Not necessarily that Mars in Cancer is a bad thing. It just doesn't have as much strength and resources as he might normally have in signs where he's more supported with his own essential dignity. So that will happen on the 25th. And these ingresses of Saturn, of Pluto, and of Mars are really the big hallmarks of some things that we're looking at. This is what a lot of people have been talking about as far as March goes. And then we have a couple other things where Venus is going to conjoin Jupiter on the 2nd of March. So that's a really cool thing. And Mercury will conjoin with Saturn on that same day. The Sun will conjoin with Neptune, starting a new cycle for Neptune on the 15th. Mercury will conjunct Neptune, the Sun will square Mars, and Venus will square Pluto as she ingresses into Taurus on the 16th. So that's quite a busy day. These will all be taken into account as I do your horoscopes. You do not have to keep track of all of these, just knowing I will say beginning, middle, and end of month for you, and these will be included in that. So you'll be all set. Mercury is going to have a cazimi, which means conjoining with the Sun on the 17th, and then conjoin with Jupiter soon after on the 28th. And then we have Mars trine Saturn on the same day that Venus will conjoin with Uranus, which should be kind of exciting and a little bit unpredictable on the very last day of March. So this is our overview of some of the transits that we can expect. Now we're going to dive into the different lunations of March. So let's start with the first full moon of March. There's only one full moon in March. Occasionally there are two. We call those blue moons. That's not an occasion that's happening this month, so you don't have to worry about it too much. But we do have a full moon in Virgo happening on the 7th of March. That's going to be pretty fun to look at. And here it is with the chart for our reference. So we have the full moon down here in Virgo at 1640. It's full because it's exactly opposite the sun at 1640 in Pisces. So that's what makes a full moon. They're exactly opposite each other. The sun is shining full light on the moon. So things that are going on along with this lunation is the full moon. Of course, we have this opposition by sign. So over here, along with the sun, we also have the moon being able to get this long view of Mercury, who is looking for some resources here, maybe a little bit tired, and is invisible to the naked eye because the sun's beams are so bright. If you were to look at Mercury, you would only get blinded by the sun. So maybe don't look for Mercury right now. And the sun is also approaching Neptune. And we can see that the moon covers about 13 degrees in a day. So sometime throughout this day, the moon will also have that opposition with Neptune. The thing I'm keeping my eye on here is, of course, a trine we have here pretty close with Uranus and the moon, and a square that is a little wide, but it's still there, this T-square created with Mars in Gemini. So overall, things that we're looking at here are some conflicts coming up because of Mars, really asking us to pay attention to maybe what's making us feel anxious, to the details of things today, and to take action on those. See what we need to do to feel more empowered, to feel more in control, and maybe really come up with some ideas or a task list to empower us to do that. We're also looking at, I'm looking at my notes so I can make sure I tell you everything you need to know. So if I look away from the camera, that's what I'm doing. But this full moon has the T-square, has the oppositions with Mercury and Neptune, and the trine with Uranus. So the trine with Uranus makes things easy for change. Trines are like a slope for water to run down. So if we have this easy slope where water is running uninhibited, it's an easy kind of transition for things to happen. The moon really represents our personal lives, our daily lives. It's the closest planet to us. So as the moon is moving and changing, we're inputting and adding on this surprise factor, this what else might happen, this new thing that might be coming up that helps us gain clarity as the full moon is trying to offer us. So the full moon, that opposition gives you the long view of something. It's when you step back and you get to look at the picture for the fullness of it. Uranus might give us inspirations around this, or might kind of awaken our ideas and our thoughts to something new. It is a trine, so it's typically considered a positive aspect, but we're also thinking about how change might easily happen on this day. So thinking about the different ways that that could show up in your life, especially considering the area of your life that Virgo rules. And this will be taken into consideration as I go through your horoscopes. And of course, as these events happen, I am posting about them on TikTok and Instagram with individual horoscopes for your rising signs that also take into account if you're an Aries rising, as the example is on this chart, I will automatically input Virgo being in the 6th house. So you don't have to worry about that. I've got you covered. In your personal life, if you do want to take this more into your own hands, a great affirmation for this lunation is, I have all the time, knowledge, and resources I need to make empowered decisions in the right moment. The idea is that the anxiety that might come up around this is about things that are not currently in your control. So knowing that whatever isn't in your control right now isn't meant to be acted upon right now, might be helpful. And knowing that when the time is right to act, you will have the resources you need, reassuring yourself of this fact. So a way to like navigate that, if you don't feel that way right now, is to tell yourself the story of your situation from the third person, getting that full moon perspective on it. And then listen to this story for the root of the situation. What's causing all of this to happen? And then get the idea of what that source is, focus on resolving or working with that so you don't get lost in the weeds of all the details that seem to be more symptom than source. It's also worth noting that we do have Jupiter and Venus still quite close to each other, only about 5 degrees away. So they are still two benefics conjunct each other. They've, of course, perfected this a couple days before that on March 2nd, which will be included, and we mentioned on the first couple slides. But I will be including the energy of that in your horoscopes as well, knowing that we're still kind of riding that wave a little bit as it begins to separate. And just an hour or so, a little bit more than an hour, I think, after this, maybe a little bit less, Saturn will cover the rest of this final minute of a degree to tip into Pisces. So Saturn at 29:59 is pretty interesting because he's just minutes in time away from completing that degree space minute. So time and space coming together here is really neat. And Saturn will stay in Pisces when he comes over. He will not retrograde back into Aquarius. So on this day, during this full moon, you get the culmination of completion to go along with the fact that you have completed your Saturn return. If Saturn is in Pisces in your natal chart, if Saturn is in Aquarius in your natal chart, you have completed your Saturn return. If Saturn is in Pisces in your natal chart, you are entering the realm of your Saturn return over the next 2 years or so. So those are fun things to keep in mind for the full moon of March 2023. Next, we're going to take a bit of a leap into the future and talk about the Aries equinox, which is the start of the zodiacal new year that will be happening on March 20th. So we'll go ahead and take a look at this slide. And here we have the chart for the Aries equinox. We know this because the sun is at 0 degrees and 0 minutes of Aries. Saturn at this point will already make it to the 1.5 degrees, which is pretty interesting to see. But we want to focus on what this moment sort of means for the potential of the next season ahead, the next month ahead, as the sun makes his way across Aries and then heads towards Taurus. So things of note that go along with this chart is that the sun is in Aries, and we can see conjunct Mercury pretty close here by 3 degrees of separation. So the sun is still approaching the conjunction with Mercury that will happen, or has happened, actually. I think Mercury caught up to the sun at this point. Let's actually look at that together. So we can see that Mercury was behind the sun here. And by this point, they've had their conjunction, as we mentioned on the first couple slides. And now Mercury is ahead. So Mercury is pulling ahead in the race. So seeing that conjunction is still a bit at play, even noticing that the moon is pretty close to Neptune here. So things are looking like more motion, a lot of speed happening. Mercury is not quite visible yet. We're looking for that evening rise of Mercury. But we do see that cazimi has happened. So we might have some things on our minds that really help us set intentions for what we want to bring over this next cycle of the sun renewing through the zodiac signs. Aries is traditionally the first sign of the zodiac because in the northern hemisphere, that's where spring begins. And because Aries has a lot of spring-like qualities to it. So if you're in the southern hemisphere and you're like, why does this matter to me? Why is the sun exalted in Aries? It's not necessarily that spring happened, so we call that Aries season. It's because the quality of Aries seems to reflect a lot of qualities that poetically are a lot like spring. I actually mentioned this and brought this up in person with Kelly Surtees, who lives and has lived in Australia and really observed how things work, if astrology still works in the other hemispheres. And she says it does. So that was the answer that she gave to me. And I was really appreciative of that. And I wanted to help clarify it here. So we have the sun in Aries conjunct Mercury. Jupiter is now in the same sign as the sun, which is great. And we have a sextile aspect going on with Mars here in by sign, because Mars is at the end of Gemini, but there is this sextile sign aspect going on with the sun and Mars, and that's only going to get a little bit, it's going to be in play until Mars kind of opts out and goes into Cancer. So we have this energy in the background of Mars, who is the ruler of the sun at this point, being able to see and witness the sun and say, hey, I see you. Here's some resources. Let me like send you Uber Eats or something like that. So Mars is in Gemini. And at this time, we see that there is a square between Neptune and Mars, and by extension, the moon and Mars as well. And by, again, that wide sign, Mars and Saturn are now kind of in a square situation where they can see each other. There's not too much animosity there. They're not having a lot of high pressure about it, but they are kind of giving each other that side eye that might show up in an undertone of some of the things going on. Other things to notice is that by this time, lovely Venus has made her way over here into Taurus. So she is back home, and she really has to look forward to the conjunction with Uranus. But for now, she's still quite far away with enough distance to be able to enjoy her time being at home, relaxing into that. And she is separating from this sextile with Saturn. So you can see there's only about 3 degrees of difference, and she's the one moving fastest and further away. So a really great way to just embrace this energy is just to say, I'm ready to create. Aries is the initiation, right? The beginning of the zodiac. For a lot of us, it is a spring kind of thing where new stuff is happening, or where we're creating the stillness that comes after fall. If you're in the Southern Hemisphere, there is a change happening, this transformation from one state of being to another that we are ready for with Aries season. So reminding yourself, I'm ready to create, or I'm ready to transition and to move. And you can do a card pull for your zodiacal new year and see what is coming up for you, what energy is coming up that is prominent for you. I like to say, where am I at now? What's coming up for me? And what's the best thing for me to focus on right now to move myself forward? You can also say, is there anything that's stuck right now that I can break through? Things like that might be helpful. And it's also a great year to make sort of a list of goals and just take the first step on them. Take that initiatory process and let yourself begin this whole zodiacal new year that has come upon us for this time. So now let's move on to our final lunation of the month, which is just one day ahead in the future from the time that we were just looking at, but we get a whole new chart to see. All right. So now we are looking at the new moon in Aries. So the sun is still at 0 degrees, only about a day again after the sun has moved into Aries. And now the moon has caught up and is there as well at the very same degree. This is a new moon because the sun and the moon are so close together that we will not see the moon in the sky, because if it's nighttime, the moon will be under the horizon with the sun, but also because they're conjunct. So you won't be able to see the sun. This is a dark night. And so this new moon brings a new cycle for the moon. And this is happening in Aries. So looking at some indicators around this, we see that Mercury is still nearby. So we're having some ideas of these initiatory thoughts and the new beginnings that we're still thinking about from the Aries ingress of the sun moving into Aries. Another thing we're keeping in mind is that Jupiter is nearby. So we get a little bit of a boon of energy, a burst of energy from Jupiter, something that makes this maybe a little lucky or adds or expands and says yes to whatever is going on around that. And then we do have this sextile aspect again. It's not by degree by any means, but they are present in these signs. So they can kind of feel each other's presences and see each other a little bit. And Mars is, of course, the ruler. So there's this situation of the ruler being able to give a little bit of support, a little bit of resources to add to this. Also worth noting that there's a fun fact here of Mercury being in Mars's sign and Mars being in Mercury's sign, which they have been for a little while, but this is called mutual reception. So astrology fun fact, they're in each other's places. So it's like one is staying in one's apartment, the other is staying in the first person's apartment, and they're kind of on the phone telling the other person how to be comfortable, how to use the TV and all of those things. Just saying, hey, I'm in your space, you're in my space. We have some kind of camaraderie going on here. So that's something to keep in mind that these two have. Again, just as sort of a tone to add on to the layers of the chorus of the stars at this moment. So we talked about Mars. The fact that there is a little bit of energy going on in Aries means that we might notice a lot of Aries things simply because everything that Jupiter is doing is going to be Aries. Everything that Mars is doing is going to be Aries. The sun and the moon are making it feel very personal for us right now. So a lot of Aries energy is on the surface, is closer for us to feel and easier for us to feel. So The thing we might notice here is a burst of inspiration and energy that helps us create and trust our instincts. Aries is very instinctual. It's that intuition of, I'm just going to do it because I know it's the right thing to do. So knowing and being able to witness and feel, trusting your gut at this time is something that's interesting to be able to do. An affirmation is, I am driven and inspired, knowing that this is you. This is an energy you have access to, especially right now, to remind yourself and maybe call upon when you need to feel driven and inspired later. Lean into what it feels like now so you can use it in your pocket when you need it at another time. Things you can do to really honor this are do something exciting that feels focused and on purpose, with a capital P, on your purpose, what feels purposeful to you. Be present with your mind and body and listen to their instincts and messages. Really allow that synchronicity and that cooperation between mind, body, existence to come into fullness for you. So this is our final lunation of the month. As you can see, it's on March 23rd, around 1:23 p.m. Eastern time. Adjust that to your time zone, and you'll be able to know exactly when it goes exact. But of course, it's a new moon, and so we'll be able to use some time after this as well. So if you want to do it more in the evening and honor these things, this is a daytime sign. So it might be that the energy is there for you already. Whenever you feel it, trust it. That's totally there for you. Now we're going to move into all of the different signs. So we're going to go one by one through all 12, starting with Aries and working our way through to Pisces. And I will have timestamps in the description below for you to be able to jump to your sign, or you always have the option to listen to all of them if you'd like. All right, Aries. So let's talk about March 2023 as it relates to you personally as an Aries rising. One thing to keep in mind is that we've got a lot of activity going on around your 12th house, which is Pisces, in this month. So we're going to look at the slides. We're going to talk about everything. I'm not going to delineate every aspect. Some of them that are notable, I might notice for you or point out, but we're going to keep this nice, brief, and easy to share. All right. So looking at your key themes right here that you can go ahead and check out, it's important to keep in mind that there's a lot of activity happening around your 12th house. In the beginning of the month, you might notice some slowness and vagueness, specifically around communication, your daily routine, but there's a ton of energy and attention happening on your personal life or your style, your aesthetic, things that are very personal and within your sphere of influence. The full moon is going to bring an opportunity to kind of take a breath, maybe meditate and release pent-up energy. It is happening again in Virgo. So you'll be able to help yourself take some calmness to go along with it. And this is an opportunity to gain some clarity on situations regarding health, daily routine, and all of those things. So you can set yourself up for compound success, creating a step-by-step process that leads to a compound success for you overall. By the middle of the month, this insight's going to carry into sort of the middle of the month and you finding your intuition and feeling pretty heightened to help you make certain decisions that might help you cut unsupportive things out of your life so that you can make space for new resources. These are resources of abundance and possibly even income. And your priorities might include like taking care of your personal life, taking care of things at home, and taking care of your own mental health to really be able to make space to be a good conduit for all the good things that can come to you. By the end of the month, as Aries season ushers in a new meteorological season of spring in the Northern Hemisphere or fall in the fall or in the South, you might start feeling that energy of Aries season that you can use to create your personal goals and to thrive in your own personality and perspective, things that, again, feel like you're in control, very in your sphere. And you may start feeling inspired to change things up at home or into invest in renovations at home, maybe making some financial change that supports your right to rest and well-being. A great affirmation for you is, I am capable and strong enough to make powerful and supportive decisions in my life. And I hope you feel very empowered during this incredible month of a lot of change and a lot of excitement, something which I hope you continue to thrive in. All right, Taurus, let's see what March of 2023 has in store for you. Now, keeping in mind, there's a lot of activity going on specifically in your 11th house with some of the things that are happening, but we're going to keep in mind all of the things and all of the transits as we go through this and share this now. Okay, so Taurus, some key themes to keep in mind are listed here. But at the beginning of the month, you may begin the month looking for new ideas that are going to give you inspiration toward a renewed sense of purpose and direction. And then around the full moon in Virgo, it's a great time for you to detach yourself from specific outcomes to kind of allow the universe to surprise you and to support you. What resources are abundant for you to use? What can you build with what's readily available to you? Then by the middle of the month, you may find clarity around this. And you'll see that you've managed to kind of be at peace with trusting the process for a while until Venus swoops in to make the uncertain feel at least a little bit more comfortable when she ingresses into your first house of Taurus, where she loves to be. It's her domicile. And so this creates things that are more comfortable, and it's more like an opportunity to dream bigger. This might be a time also to draw up a pros and cons list that's going to help you define your vision for the month or even the year ahead. By the end of the month, whatever doesn't support your highest interest is going to become clear to you. This might be through some conflict or challenges or things that just say, hey, not working. And so towards the end of the month, you'll see that you gain a deeper understanding of what your soul needs and how that plays into your plans around the new moon time of the month, near the very end. So life presents surprises for you at the tail end of the month because Venus is going to conjoin Uranus. So we have some surprises coming on that's going to be very obvious to you in your perspective. They may be positive surprises. It's going to depend on other things going on in your chart. Or they may be something that really gives you an opportunity to pivot in a new direction. But this is something that could definitely change how you understand yourself, your perspective. You might even get like a random new haircut that just feels really cool to you. Things like that might be things that come around at this time. So be sure to leave room for inspiration and excitement in your plans so that you can follow wherever your divine support leads you. A great affirmation for you is, of course, I'm divinely supported and ready to become the best version of myself. And we all know that you know what that feels like. You know exactly how to honor your energy. And I hope that you have an amazing March. Gemini risings, let's see what March of 2023 has in store for you, keeping in mind that there's going to be a lot of energies playing around in your 10th house of career in Pisces. So we're going to look at all of everything. I'm going to go from the beginning, the middle, and the end of the month, and then give you your affirmation. And you get your slide, which looks a little like this. So Gemini, again, we're looking at some key themes here, and this is for the entire month, but also keeping in mind that in the beginning of the month kind of seems to begin with a sense that changes are actually coming into your life in the direction of your career. And you may even notice some space opening up in your life for that to occur kind of slowly but surely, as Gemini, of course, is also in Pisces. So we're taking this slowly, surely, one step at a time, maybe over the next 2 years or so, now that Saturn is coming into your 10th house as well, to really build things up and show you what doesn't work and what does work, and really create some discernment in things regarding your career. And then the full moon is going to encourage you to set yourself up at home to maybe plant some deep roots for that tall tree of the 10th house, the career, the things you make in the world, to have roots to really rely on so that it doesn't waver one way or another or even fall over. And then you might notice that you're bearing more fruit over time, that this is something that works and goes the distance for you. Doesn't mean it has to be the same the whole time, but it is something that is unfolding with integrity. By the middle of the month, you may get a spark of intuitive inspiration that kind of offers a preview of that light at the end of the month or at the end of this road that is coming for you. It's a great time to allow yourself to immerse in the vision of what you want your ideal life to feel like, and then have the message of what you want to share with the world feeling really clear. What does it feel like to be able to serve people? What does it feel like to be helpful? What do you want to tell people? What's so important to you that you just need to share it? Doing this while considering also how this is going to support you in return, especially around the 17th of the month, during that Mercury cazimi with the sun in Pisces. Clarity might come to you around that time, specifically around your career. In the end of the month, long-term goals and social interaction may take center stage, and you might feel a sense of relief when Mars finally gets out of Gemini. Mars has been there since August of 2022, so you've been feeling this a lot, and now we finally get that release of that pressure or that energy and that heat happening in your first house. Now you're coming into a time where you've probably learned a lot about yourself, and you have the opportunity to introduce this updated version of yourself to your friends, to your social circles, and to have yourself feel known, to really get clear on that process everything you've been through. And you may be surprised at how much your work, health, and well-being are awakened and changing at this time. So a great affirmation for you is, I trust the process and I welcome aligned surprises and excitement, because you deserve excitement. You deserve to feel happy. And I hope that now that things are shifting a little bit at the end of this month for you, you really start claiming and feeling that. Cancer risings, let's dive into what March of 2023 has in store for you, taking into the understanding that there's going to be a lot of energy happening in your ninth house of worldview, spirituality, religion, things that really inform the decisions you make and the way that you see the world. So let's dive in together and take a look at your March themes. So here's some great keywords that'll help guide you along. Other things that could include higher education, foreign travel, publishing, all of those things. But at the beginning of the month, it's going to kick off with a subtle note emphasizing areas of your life around travel, worldview, and enlightenment. So you're thinking that you have plenty of time to think and ponder these things over the next few years. And the full moon is going to really remind you to take it easy and to surround yourself with things that make you feel comfortable and give you the space to grow. In the middle of the month, you might find yourself thinking more long-term about your goals and start feeling more tangible and a sense of urgency to see them made real as they begin to catch your attention, with that Aries energy coming in as well. So the month is going to round out for you with the Aries equinox, opening your way to new ideals and a new path forward in your life as your career and in your career, to find something that really aligns with you and who you want to be, how you want to feel, and who you naturally and in your most gifted state, who you are. So this is a great month for you to be really finding a sense of direction and allowing yourself to feel led. So a great affirmation for you is, I am wise and on the move. And you absolutely are. There's plenty of room to make progress, to see things happening in this month for you. And I hope it feels productive and I hope it feels as aligned as you deserve. All right, Leo risings, let's see what March 2023 has in store for you, keeping in mind that there's a lot of stuff going on in your 8th house of Pisces at this time. So you are a Leo rising that places Pisces in your 8th. We're going to start by kind of listing a couple things that might bring up for you as a prominent theme, but also understanding that there's a lot more going on that we're going to go through as well. And we're going to keep it simple, keep it easy, and keep it direct. All right, so we're looking at your key themes up here, knowing that the month is going to start with inspiration, maybe to collaborate with others or resolve some open-ended situations like debts or favors or things with other people that is ready to be resolved so that you can feel more in control and in your own power, and your resources and finances feel like there's something within your realm of influence, specifically around the full moon. By the middle of the month, it may start feeling a little bit fuzzy for you. You may notice your heightened intuition leads to positive shifts, and those shifts apply to your goals and your sense of purpose after some decisive and educated choices around your daily work routines, which are going to really help you build the lifestyle that supports the life that you want to live. Then by the end of the month, we have your focus possibly shifting more towards travel or deepening your understanding of the world as you see it within and without, knowing yourself inside, knowing how that reflects in the outside and how the experiences on the outside inform who you are on the inside. It's a great time to pause and check in with yourself to be super sure that you're managing your own energy as well as you're managing your time and your resources. All of those things are your energies, and it's important for you to be able to honor all those aspects of yourself. A great affirmation for you during this month is, I know which opportunities are for me now and which opportunities are for another time. So I hope that you feel decisive and empowered this month, and that everything you need is there when you need it, and that you know that what is for you is never going to miss you, and you will never miss what is for you. So I know that you are going to have everything you need when you need it, and I hope you feel empowered with that as well. Virgo, let's dive into what March of 2023 has in store for you with all of the transits and a lot of stuff happening in your 7th house of other people. So there's probably a lot of opportunities this month for you to be able to observe and see how things are going from an objective perspective and see how things are going engaging with other people. So let's check this out. All right. So Virgo, some key themes to keep in mind are right here for you, some good keywords that might help you out. But we also understand that you may experience the beginning of the month through dealings with other people, as we've been saying, and the way that their choices and their actions affect you. So this is a really great time to be deciding your boundaries and how much your energy you have to share with other people. And this is going to be a theme for you that you may be working on gradually over the next few years as Saturn transits the 7th house and helps you really understand your boundaries, helps you understand where you can give your energy and who you want to cooperate with. It's a very big energy of discernment in this area of life with these key themes here. In the middle of the month, you might find yourself focusing more on your own sense of direction and weighing the value of partnering with others to further your career goals, or working with clients, which is another way that this can show up. Working with clients to function, or maybe functioning a little bit more independently on your own. Clarity on this is going to come pretty quickly, and you won't have to wait long before feeling empowered to make decisions regarding these efforts and your resources. So it's not something that you need to stress too long about, but it is something that's like, this is something I want to have figured out. That Mercury cazimi happening around the 17th should help with clarity around this. By the end of the month, you may realize that investing energy in the future is also something that is the most direct decision to ensure a return on investment, as surprises around that Venus-Uranus conjunction in Taurus will surprise you around travel, your philosophy, and new information that really educates your plans and your long-term goals. A nice affirmation for you at this time is, I trust my ability to know how and when to trust others. I know how to trust others. I know when to trust others. I know what that feels like. I know what that looks like. And you know everything you need to know in a moment to be able to make a decision that needs to be made right then and there, if that's what comes up for you. So I hope you feel like you are ready for this time, that you are ready for anything that life throws at you, and for the people that life might present to you as well, to really help further you on this path that you are walking. Okay, Libra, let's see what March of 2023 has in store for you as a Libra rising. Now, we have a lot of activity starting out, especially with your 6th house. I'm going to give you some keywords to take a look at on our slide, and an affirmation to keep in mind throughout the month to really help guide you as I go through a few more details of what the month looks like, beginning, middle, and end for you. So here we go. All right, so Libra, here are some of your keywords that you might notice being a big focus for the month. However, during the month, you may find that, especially at the beginning, you're particularly focused on what works and what doesn't work in your daily routine. So again, we're thinking about that 6th house. It's possibly might make your health more of a priority, and it might help you start thinking about how you can avoid excess stress, more stress than you need in your life. By the middle of the month, you might start finding good enough reasons to motivate you to focus more on yourself and your own well-being, and perhaps finding help from outside sources, maybe to help support you with people who are willing to lend you a hand. So being able to ask for help when you need it, and being able to receive help when it's offered and when it feels right to receive help through your own discernment. By the end of the month, March is going to wrap up with the possibility of meeting new people who will help you as you start envisioning new solutions for achieving your goals and for navigating any unexpected changes of Venus, who is the helmsman of your charts, the sort of driver for Libra. And she's going to conjoin Uranus in this time. Specifically, let me find my date here. Venus will conjoin Uranus, there we go, on the 30th. So the very last day of the month. This might put a punctuation mark on the month where it's like, something surprising is happening as that comes up. So maybe a couple days before, and maybe even really recognizing it a couple days after, where you see unexpected changes to other people's resources and the external focuses of your own energy. So a nice affirmation to keep in mind this month is, I'm a creative being in mind. Oh, sorry, that's for Scorpio. I am a steward of my own energy and of my own well-being. You, the Libra rising, are a steward of your own energy and your own well-being. And that is something that you can keep in mind as all of the things of March throughout the month come up for you. And make sure that you just take care of yourself, honor your energy, say no when it feels right to say no, feel empowered to find your own sense of balance as you're helping the world balance itself as well. All right, fellow Scorpio risings, let's dive into March 2023 and see what there is in store in this month for you as a Scorpio rising, knowing that we're going to have a lot of themes coming up around 5th house creativity topics. I'm going to show you some more keywords for that on this next slide. All right, so diving into March, we're down here. And you can see a lot of these keywords come up for the fifth house. So anything around these and even more might be something that really comes up for you. So we're thinking about this month is about honoring inspiration and expression. This is a time where you may be refining over the next few years. Saturn's coming into Pisces as well. So we're noticing that we're maybe learning a new skill or going into the traditional forms of our expressions and taking advantage of refining and being more specific about what it is we want to do with our creative expressions or any of these other options that come along with that fifth house theme. So this is something we'll be thinking about for the next few years with Saturn being in Pisces. And be sure not to overwork yourself as you clarify your ultimate goals or aspirations, especially around the full moon of Virgo, which is happening in the 11th house. And you might want to make sure that your long-term goals feel aligned and that they don't feel anxiety inducing. If you're feeling overwhelmed by them, allow yourself the opportunity to refine them, to say, what does it feel like? How do I know I'm on track? Creativity may love company by the middle of the month, as partnership and external inspiration may lead to some next level growth in your process and your passions, with Mercury also coming in with that Cazimi, giving us a bit of a spark of inspiration to go along with things. The month finishes with a focus on daily tasks that set you up for health and success, those daily things that really compound into overall holistic health. And this might help you awaken to the realization that your physical existence is just as important as your spiritual or your philosophical journey. So again, we're looking at that final day of March where Venus will conjoin Uranus at the same time as we have, again, Mars in Cancer trining Saturn, and then Venus conjunct Uranus. And there's a lot of activity going on around that time, which might embody a lot of this energy that we're talking about. So a really great affirmation to keep in mind throughout the month for you as a Scorpio rising is, I'm a creative being in mind, spirit, and in body. So I hope that you embody all of the power and potential that you have for such creative growth throughout this month. All right, Sagittarius risings, let's dive into what March of 2023 has in store for you. Keeping in mind that there's a lot of fourth house themes coming up. So I'm going to show you some keywords to keep in mind throughout the month of what the fourth house might mean for you, along with an affirmation. And then I'm going to go ahead and go over all of the rest of the stuff and put it into simple sentences for you to be able to work with throughout the month. Okay. All right, and we get to move on to the next slide. You are the top of this one. And so here are some keywords that might come up around fourth house topics. So that's something to keep in mind as an undertone, especially starting out the month. March begins with a reminder to give yourself space and to incorporate joy and fun into your life so that you can always have a home to return to as you continue to explore whatever it is that sparks your interest and you begin to make your mark even more on the world. By the middle of the month, you may be seeking ways to feel more independent and set some personal boundaries with others and begin focusing on your own health and daily rhythm. Things that make you feel supported, things that you can change when needed, but at least give you somewhere to start with your day, with your health, and making sure that your priorities and needs are always met. And this may feel a bit slower right now than usual, but that's okay. So you may realize that things in the stillness that set you off to your next adventure are actually helping you feel even more prepared for the fun that could lie ahead. And by the end of the March will end with a lot of creative impulse as Mars finally gets off of some of the pressure that he's been putting on you since last August. And you finally feel that you have more space to breathe and relations with others settle into an equilibrium just in time for you to make some surprising changes when when Venus and Uranus can join each other at the end of the month. Changes to the way that you run your day, perhaps to set yourself up for even more long-term success and less stress, which is something you definitely do not need. So a great affirmation for you for March is, I incorporate rest and joy into the rhythm of my life. And I love the idea of rhythm because it doesn't hold you accountable to having a set routine all the time. You can change it up, but it makes sure that those core things that you need are met. And I hope that March really brings this up for you and that you feel super supported. Capricorn, let's see what March has in store for you in this year of 2023, with March really lighting up a lot of your third house as a Capricorn rising. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen. And you can see a couple keywords here for things that are surrounding the third house that might come up for you, but let's dive into March as a whole. So in March, you may start the month with a lot on your mind and maybe wanting to be in familiar surroundings in order to work out all the things that are going on in your life and find clarity and meaning around that full moon that is happening in Virgo. So that's going to be able to help you and set you up for some successes there. And then after that, you may start really applying what you realize to your health and your work routines so that you can feel clearer on how you want to connect and communicate your thoughts with the people around you so that you feel seen and understood. It's not that you need the spotlight on you necessarily, but you just need to make sure that people know where you're at so that you can function at your best, so that you can do whatever you need and so that they know where you're at as well, so that they can show how much they care about you. Writing things out may be a great tool to help you organize any fuzzy thoughts around this, anything that you might need to flesh out so that you can see what needs to stay and what may be ready to go in order to make space for you to feel more rested and comfortable in your life. The theme actually carries over into the end of the month, and you may feel a release of pressure on your sense of self as Pluto actually gets out of Capricorn for the first time since 2008 and moves into Aquarius for a brief stint. He'll come back for a little bit. Again, it's something you're used to. It's something that's going to kind of give you some clarity on what that was, and maybe you get to revisit it and put some final touches on it while Pluto comes back and then moves away again finally in next year in the fall, I believe. So the new moon, let's focus on that a little bit. That new moon is going to give you permission. The new moon in Aries is going to give you permission and inclination to maybe take some rest and perhaps some time to yourself while others begin to process their own emotions around situations that they've been experiencing as well. And at the very end of the month, you're going to find that you may be surprised to see how others in your life are taking charge of situations, and how that allows you the freedom to feel inspired and maybe to try something a bit different in your own creative life. This is around Venus conjoining with Uranus on the very last day of the month. So a really great affirmation to keep in mind as you're navigating this month is, I allow my mind and myself the space to expand and to process, because it's been a very interesting and long journey that you now have the ability and the space and the time and the divine timing to be able to look into and say, wow, what did that mean to me? How have I changed as a person and transformed since 2008 and over all of these things that have happened? It's been a big Capricorn heavy last few years. And now you're starting to feel that releasing and moving on and seeing who you are now at the end of this journey and at the beginning of a new one. All right, Aquarius, let's see what's happening for you in March of 2023 as an Aquarius rising, with some of the energy really kicking off in that second house of Pisces for you. So we're going to take a look at some keywords here for things that might come up throughout the month for you. And there's your affirmation, which I will go over as sort of the capstone on everything else. But let's talk about the month as a whole. You might begin March with the impulse to surround yourself with things that help you feel better. And it might make you feel, it might actually be a good idea to wait until the full moon to click buy on any of those purchases that you feel the impulse to buy, to make sure that it really supports your extended material comfort and success rather than just filling a void for the moment. So this thread is going to be something that actually carries into the middle of the month with the fruits or results of those decisions revealing themselves and revealing if they supported your long-term dreams or if they just did cover up and kind of put a band-aid on something. Both options are valid, but that will become discernible for you by the middle of the month. And whichever is the case, you should be able to find the comfort that you're looking for. And you should begin feeling a little bit more inspired to really express yourself and create in creative or ambitious ways that really help you level up your own self-care routine in the middle of the month. And then by the end of the month, new ideas start flooding in towards the end of the month as you start feeling whispers of a personal transformation beginning to set in, with Pluto kind of coming in for a little bit of a stay in Aquarius for a while before retrograding back out in a few months. So be sure that you remember to put as much enthusiasm into the care of your physical and financial security as much as you do into your intellectual curiosities and the approaches that you have to sort of navigate any upheavals or surprises that may show up around home around the end of the month when Venus conjoins Uranus. So this is a really interesting month for you. There's some new things really coming in. Saturn, of course, is also changing signs, and Saturn is the helmsman of your chart. So you're noticing a lot of shifting, a lot of curious things coming up. So a great affirmation is, I have everything I need at the perfect time and in the perfect way, or better than I can imagine. So I hope that this is an incredibly interesting month for you, that you feel supported, that you feel curious, and that all of the things conspire completely as much as possible in your favor. Okay, Pisces. So there's a lot of energy happening in the first house for you over this month. As a Pisces rising, everything begins in your sign. So let's dive in to see what March of 2023 has in store for you, and to talk a little bit about some of the new energies that are going to be coming into Pisces this month as well. Okay, and so I have some keywords here to help you throughout the month, things to keep in mind, and also your affirmation here. But you may begin the month feeling a little bit low and recognizing the potentials for financial and material abundance that are now accessible for you. So as Saturn moves into your first house for a 2.5 year stay, you may start taking this feeling and begin to slowly and steadily reform your sense of self and come upon a new foundation of knowledge and insight that you have plenty of time to explore. You have plenty of time to really lean into what it feels like to be you, to all of these opportunities to be able to recognize yourself and have that ability of self-reflection and self growth that you'll be able to kind of build upon of Saturn's time in your sign. Mid-month, you may actually, the middle of the month, bear with me, the middle of the month may inspire some change to make you feel more at home and make your home feel more like a sacred space and less like a container, as ideas come to you that may help you combine your spiritual and physical lifestyles. So again, creating a sacred space, less of a container of just living in your home. And really thinking about what those aesthetics do when combined, and maybe creating little rituals that begin summoning what you want to manifest into form that is aligned with the clarity and the insight that you may receive during that Mercury Cazimi on the 17th. And before Mercury takes these plans and then kind of requests the materials to put them into action for you. So again, envisioning so that those things can actually become real for you. By the end of the month, some of the activity in your life may start to settle down and give you the space and time to process things that you've been experiencing over the last few months. And perhaps creative inspired work and artistic magic might become something that is more your focus, that is something you now have the space to think about. So a great affirmation for you is, I'm divinely supported and becoming new every day. Maybe not thinking about Saturn and Pisces as a slog, but as an opportunity to think every day about what becoming new feels like. And we have this opportunity over a period of time to really be able to really explore it, to get curious and to feel into all of the curiosities and all of the images that might go along with that for you. So I hope that you have a really incredible March. And to everyone who is now watching the end of the video here, you can always, of course, find me, as I mentioned at the beginning, at The Real Crystalline on social media platforms, at the Alchemist Inkwell, in the Ask Me Astros podcast. You can work with me. I do consulting astrology, and I love working with people to help you navigate even more of what this will feel like for you. And you can find that on my website, because I will never DM you for readings. I hope you have a fabulous March. I hope it's a great time. And I hope that this is an abundant, creative, and amazing energy that really starts showing you new potentials that are going to unfold for all of us over the next few years.